There is a moment most of us have experienced, but rarely talk about. Someone says something, maybe a small criticism, maybe a passing comment, and something inside you ignites. The reaction is immediate, disproportionate, and almost frightening in its intensity. You might feel rage, or shame, or a sudden cold withdrawal. And then, a few hours later, you sit with it and wonder, why did that hit so hard? Why did something so small feel like an attack on everything you are? That question is one of the most important you will ever ask yourself. Because the answer almost never lives in the moment that triggered you. It lives somewhere older, somewhere darker, somewhere you have not yet been willing to look. Carl Jung called that place the shadow. The shadow is not your evil side. It is not the worst version of you waiting to take over. It is simply the part of your personality that you learned, very early in life, to hide. The parts that were told they were too much or not enough. The anger that was punished. The ambition that was called selfish. The grief that was told to stop. The desire that was made to feel shameful. Over time, you did not destroy those parts. You buried them, and buried things do not disappear. They wait. Jung explored this idea deeply in his work, including in Aion, where he examined how the shadow operates not just in individuals, but in the broader human psyche. The core insight is both simple and unsettling. What we refuse to see in ourselves does not go away. It goes underground, and from underground, it runs us. This is the mechanism behind what psychologists call projection. When something inside you is too painful, too threatening, or too contradictory to your self-image to be acknowledged, the mind does something clever and deeply human. Places that quality outside of you. It finds it in other people. Suddenly, the colleague who bothers you most is the one who is arrogant. The friend who irritates you is the one who is needy. The stranger online who enrages you is the one who is dishonest. And sometimes, those observations are accurate. But when the reaction is outsized, when it feels personal in a way that logic cannot explain, it is worth pausing and asking a different question. Not what is wrong with them, but what is this showing me about myself? That is not a comfortable question. It is not meant to be. Nietzsche, in his own way, understood this territory. He wrote about the danger of those who cannot face themselves, how they become the loudest critics of the very qualities they secretly carry. The person who rails most furiously against weakness may be terrified of their own. The one who cannot tolerate dishonesty in others may be running from a lie they tell themselves every day. This is not a moral judgment. It is a psychological pattern, and it is one of the most human things there is. We are all, to some degree, living with a version of ourselves that we have curated for the world, and a version we have locked away. The curated self is the one that is acceptable, competent, kind, strong, or whatever combination of qualities earned us love and safety when we were young. The locked-away self is everything that did not make the cut. And here is what makes the shadow so powerful. It does not operate in the light. It operates in the gap between what you think you feel and what you actually feel. It speaks through your body before your mind catches up. It shows up in the tightness in your chest when someone succeeds at something you wanted. In the flash of contempt you feel. Suppress. In the way a certain kind of person, confident, free, unashamed, makes you feel something you cannot quite name. Sometimes that unnamed feeling is admiration. Sometimes it is longing. And sometimes it is fury, because they are living something you told yourself you were not allowed to have. The shadow is not your enemy. That is perhaps the most important reframe in all of depth psychology. The shadow is a messenger. Every time it erupts, every time you overreact, every time you feel that disproportionate sting, it is pointing at something that needs your attention. Not your judgment, not your shame, your attention. So what does shadow work actually look like in practice? It does not require years of therapy, though therapy can be a profound support. It begins with a simple but courageous habit. When you notice a strong reaction, you pause before you act on it, and you ask a few honest questions. What exactly am I feeling right now? Not the surface emotion, not just angry or hurt, But what is underneath it? Is there fear? Fear of being seen as inadequate, as unlovable, as ordinary? Is there envy? And if there is envy, what does that envy reveal about something you genuinely want but have not allowed yourself to pursue? Is there a wound being touched? Something from much earlier in your life that this moment accidentally reopened? These questions are not about making excuses for your reactions. They are about understanding them. Because you cannot change what you cannot see, and you cannot see what you refuse to look at. One of the most liberating discoveries in this kind of inner work is realizing that the qualities you most dislike in others are often the qualities you have most aggressively suppressed in yourself. Selfishness in others may have been taught that their own needs were a burden. The person who is enraged by other people's passivity may have had their own voice silenced so many times that they buried it entirely. The one who cannot stand arrogance may be sitting in a deep well of their own unlived confidence, afraid to claim it. This is not about blame. It is not about your parents, your past, or anyone who shaped you. It is about recognizing that the map you were given was incomplete, and that you have the ability, right now, to redraw it. Meeting your shadow is not a moment of defeat. It is a moment of expansion. Because every part of yourself that you reclaim from the shadow is a part of yourself that is no longer running you from the dark. It becomes available to you. The anger, when understood, becomes healthy boundaries. The envy, when examined, becomes direction. The grief, when finally felt, becomes compassion, for yourself and for others. This is what Jung meant when he pointed toward wholeness, not perfection, not the elimination of darkness, but the integration of all that you are, the light and the shadow, into a self that is honest, grounded, and genuinely free. You will not do this perfectly. No one does. There will be moments when the shadow catches you off guard, when you react before you can reflect, when you project before you can pause. That is not failure. That is being human. The practice is simply to return, again and again, to the question, what is this really about? The more you ask it, the more you will find that your strongest reactions are not random. They are a map. They are pointing with remarkable precision at exactly the places inside you that are asking to be seen. And being seen, truly seen, even by itself, is where healing begins. If this kind of inner work resonates with you, explore more on Inside the Labyrinth. There is much more waiting for you here. And if this video opens something worth thinking about, consider sharing it with someone who might need it today. And if this spoke to a part of you that rarely gets heard, stay with that feeling for a moment. You are not broken because you feel deeply. You are only beginning to understand yourself. Subscribe to Inside the Labyrinth for more reflections on the hidden patterns of the human mind.